when you're talking about a game 7 of a Stanley Cup, you should maybe bring in someone who, has played in the damn thing before and been there, knows about the mindset. A pleasure to welcome back to the show former Oiler and Stanley Cup champion, Chris Pronger. Chris, thanks for doing this again, man. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's just start with this. And I was listening to Matthias Ekholm speak today, and he talked about how, today is just going to be a normal day for him. He's going to go and he's going to have his pregame nap and his same meal and all that. As a player on this kind of a day, how difficult did you find it to stay in your same routine and have your pregame naps and all of that?
I think you're excited, but I think I saw Connor McDavid talk about it yesterday. You have to just treat it like another it is another ordinary game. You're going to have the butterflies, you're going to have the excitement, you're going to have the pregame jitters, but once it's all said and done and you start playing, you're just playing another hockey game and trying to play to the highest level you can.
Yeah, fair. I just, for me, like sitting here, I keep being like, okay, now it's 5.5 hours till puck drop. Okay. And it's something. And the vibe down here is incredible. Before we continue along, I did want to do a bit of a giveaway in the chat. I did not tell you about this, Liam. I'm sorry, but we're giving away $25 to Nation Gear. There are two players in this series who are teammates of Chris Pronger. First person to get it in the YouTube chat is going to get themselves $25 to Nation Gear. Chris, do you know them off the top of your head?
Two players?
Yeah, two players in the series you were teammates with, and I hope my research was right, but I think it was.
Two players.
One on each team, too.
I'm have to think about that.
Really put in the spot.
Oh, boy.
I can bail you out because someone in the chat's already got it.
Oh, wow. Who were they?
Sergei Bobrovsky spent 2 years with, or
That's
a year
right.
with him in Philly.
That's right. Sorry.
Corey Perry.
And who? Corey Perry. Look at you guys. Drew a blank on both of them.
Good research. All right, let's continue along. Obviously, the last time the Oilers were in this spot was back in 2006. What do you remember about that? And maybe what was the mindset of being a road player in such a pivotal game?
Yeah, I think at that stage, we weren't really too worried about matchups. You already had felt out the other team. You knew what to expect, what was going to transpire. I do think if you're Edmonton in this situation, you want to get that first goal. I think the team that scores the first goal is going to have the upper hand with all the pressure and the magnitude of the game and everything that's surrounding that. Obviously, in that game in 2006, Aaron Ward scored late in the first period to get the lead for Carolina, and they kept it throughout the course of the game. I don't think this game will be any different. And I think to go back to what we were talking about earlier a little bit and just the pressure and the magnitude of the game, I think for people that are not playing in the game, it's more pressure. You feel every shift as opposed to the players who are that are focused on their sole shift. They're not as necessarily engaged in, if you're up top or you're, a fan in the building, you're living and breathing and dying by every single shift. And as a player, you're trying to catch your breath on the bench. You're paying attention to the game, but you're not playing the shift for that particular player or that line. And so when you're watching the game, you're just so tight and you're feeling everything. And I think that's where people kind of get this mindset that these players have to be feeling this. It's got to be incredibly pressure packed and whatnot. And while it is, I think us on the outside feel it a lot more than maybe they do.
We've heard this a lot going into this was more game 6, and Craig McTavish was on the radio here in Edmonton the other day, and he said in that game 6 for you guys in 2006, like Carolina basically didn't stand a chance. And a lot of the comments going into game 6 here was that no matter what, Edmonton is winning this game. When you were going into that game 6 back then, was that kind of the feeling in the room? Is like nothing can stop us winning this game?
Yeah, I think just how game 5 transpired, obviously Fernando Pizzani scoring the shorthanded OT goal to send us back to game 6 in Edmonton. And, I think we had gone through enough throughout the playoffs and obviously in that series for us to really have an understanding of how we needed to come out in game 6 to kind of get the lead, get a stranglehold on that game, and then put the pedal to the metal and really hammer home the victory. And, their goalie played very well, and it could have been 8-0 at one point. We had a lot of grade A chances. We were firing all cylinders, and the issue and the way people look at it though is, again, it's a game 7. what happened in game 5, what happened in game 6, and now really doesn't matter when you're going into a game 7. Both teams have their back against the wall. Both teams need to play with a tremendous amount of desperation and will and determination to win the game. If you're Florida, you don't want egg on your face and to be the only team to lose a 3-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup Finals. And if you're Edmonton, you want to make history and do it. So it's, both teams are playing for an awful lot.
Excellent segue into what I wanted to get into next, Chris, and it was the team you were a part of that erased a 3-0 deficit. Granted, not in the Stanley Cup Final, but I'm curious for your take on this because we had Frank Saravalli on the show the other day, and he covered the series, and I asked him, like, hey, from an outside perspective, when did he feel the momentum shift back to the Philadelphia Flyers? And he said he didn't really feel it until the middle of Game 6. In that series as a player, when did you feel the momentum shift over? When were you like, man, we got him?
I got to be honest with you. We went down 3-0. We lost game 1 in overtime. Game 2 was, I think, a 1-goal game. Game 3 was another 1-goal game, I believe, maybe an empty netter. But we were in all 3 games. It wasn't like we were being blown out. It wasn't like we were being outplayed. A break here, a power play goal here. The 3-0 series could have been 2-1 us. It could have been, it could have went the other way, and we could have been up 3-0. So, it was very similar to the Oilers team when I was on in 2006. The belief in the locker room didn't wane. We did not feel like we were in that big of a deficit or that big of a hole. It was just to chip away at it. Win game 4. Simon Gagne scores a big OT goal in game 4. We win that. We go into Boston, win game 5, come back home, win game 6, and now we're kind of rolling through and feeling good. We go down 3-0 in game 7. And again, that mindset, that belief in our abilities, it's like, all right, Peter Laviolette, our coach, called the timeout. He's like, let's just get 1 goal before we go in for the first intermission. James Van Riemsdyk scored a big goal to get us to 3-1, and then we came out for the second period and just had new life and really put the hammer down and took it to them, tied the game, scored our second and third goals in the second period, and then Simon Gagne scored an awesome power play goal in like 10 minutes left in the third period to give us the lead, and we're able to hold on and complete the comeback. But at no point did I feel like we were outplayed. And I think, looking at the 6 games that have been played thus far in the series, I think you could say if you're Edmonton, you really didn't feel like you were outplayed. Maybe a little bit in game 2, the latter half of that game when they were trying to sit on that lead. But outside of that, you have to think that they feel very confident in their abilities and the way that they played the series. And obviously in their goaltending, they fixed a couple things after game 3 that I think have been crucial for the goaltender and also the way that they played defensively to create more turnovers and protect the house and allow them to get on the attack and create some of those long area passes that you're seeing them make.
I love everything you said there because you talked about how the belief in the room when you were in Philly and the fact that for chunks of this series now, the Oilers have looked good. And when they were down 3-0, Connor Brown did a press conference and he said, for the majority of the periods, we've been a better team. And I know people online were kind of making fun of him a little bit, being like, what, has he been paying attention at all? But it's like, it doesn't matter what anyone on the outside thinks. Like, to me, that illustrated how much belief was in this Oilers room. Quickly, one more on this series and the game that's going to be played here tonight. Who's one player on this Oilers team that, as you've watched this playoff run in this Cup final, they've stood out a little bit more to you as someone who maybe doesn't get enough love?
Yeah, I think when you look at, guys like Henrique obviously was brought in to be a leader and a veteran presence and has a lot of experience. He was injured in the beginning of the playoffs and now looks like he's starting to get himself back into playoff shape. Dylan Holloway has played extremely. I think you look at their penalty killing units. They've been remarkable. I was looking at the stats last night. They're 7 points up on the next closest penalty killing unit, which I think is Florida, which is outstanding. 94.7%, I think. Fact check that. But but when you look at that, you look at the power play, you look at the penalty kill, you look at those numbers usually tell a big story, and they're a big reason why they're back in the series. And then when you look at goaltending, goals against average, and all that, and you look at high risk scoring chances from games 1, 2, and 3, and now games 4, 5, and 6, there's been a drastic improvement on all those fronts. And I think if you're Florida, you're looking at going, okay, how do we change that and change that momentum from the last 3 games? And it'll be interesting to see if they come out tight or if they leave it all on the line and like, you know what, there's nothing to be tight for. This is the last game, and we just need to leave it all out there. And I do think when you see these game 7s, typically they're very close, very low scoring games. Everybody is usually feeling out that first period and not really trying to do anything too crazy. I think if you're Edmonton, you just need to kind of lay it all out there. I think you'll see McDavid shot out of a cannon and flying around the ice. And I think when you look at his last 3 games as well, he's been much better defensively. I thought in the first 2 or 3 games, he had moments of losing his coverage in the defensive zone and not really putting the effort forth. And I think you saw, 4, 5, and 6, he really, really, really was dug in on playing well defensively and making sure that, goals are hard to come by. And when you're giving up freebies, they're tough to come back from. And, that's what you want from your leader and the guy that everybody in the locker room looks up to.
All right, I lied about it being the last one. I mentioned to the listeners off the start that we have a fluid show. You are not the only member of the 016 that's joining the program today. Rafi Torres is going to pop by in about 30 minutes here. What do you remember about Rafi back in 06 and his contributions?
Pico, just like a bowling ball out there, just running guys over, scored some big goals, played, was a physical presence, but killed penalties, could play in the power play, very versatile player. I think really came into his own that year with us in Edmonton. And, he was awesome to play with. A lot of fun to watch, kind of bounce around, banging into guys, running guys over. And, as I mentioned, when he kept his game simple, he was very, very effective.
Love it, Chris. Really appreciate your time today, man. Enjoy Game 7.
Thank you. Plan on you guys too.
There you go, Chris Pronger, former NHL defenseman, Stanley Cup champion. That was fun, Liam. Hey. What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.